Hello and welcome. This is our Math 170 ASU Online Pre-Calculus course. This is a brief video to welcome you and get you started working in the course as quickly as possible. So let's look at what your first step is now that you've opened up Canvas. I guess that was the first step. Here is the next step. So really the first step in getting started in all this stuff is getting your ALEKS course paired with your Canvas course. ALEKS is where 99% of the work occurs, most of it, and we need you to do this now. Okay, wait till I first explain how to do it, but then I'm going to ask you to pause the video, get out of the video, and do this first step as soon as possible. We'll go back into the Canvas course. The first place to go, just kind of highlight this, is we want to go over here on the menu to ALEKS. So it's right there, right underneath the home. And again, that's kind of the place I'll put it. Depending upon who your assigned teacher is, it might get moved along for their preferences, but this is the student view. This is how things are turned over. The ALEKS link should be right here. So what you're going to want to do first is we're going to click on ALEKS. This should get us to leave the site because we want it to take us into ALEKS. And now the first step is it's going to come up, and since we have not paired our personal Canvas course as a student with the ALEKS course, it asks this first question. Now, have you used ALEKS before? Many of you have in the placement test. Maybe you took Math 170. But what we want you to do is say, no, I've never used ALEKS before. And that makes sort of a clean install, pairing just this course, this Canvas course, the Math 170, with just the Math 170 ALEKS. And then you don't have additional courses when you log in that you might get confused with and start working in them. Your email address should be your ASU email because that's what we want to go through. And then, so again, and your name should be the same as what it is in Canvas so that these two things match up and we can see things. Like I say, my first name is Mike. I guess I never introduced myself because I'm just a course coordinator, and you may or may not be in one of the sections I'm teaching. So I want you to get to know your instructor, but there's no reason for me to hide who I am. So let's see what happens if I do this. You should see at this point that the Canvas course, well, this is pretty cool. It is pairing. And wow, I didn't realize it would take me this far. So it takes us in there. This is the particular, you should see your instructor there, everything else. I'll go ahead and click on this. And the nice thing is you won't be charged right away. Currently, we're doing a billing system through your student account. So once everything gets updated with ALEKS in the bookstore, you will be directly charged for the cost of these. You want to kind of just go through this tutorial that tells you a few things. You've got to, again, it always tells you these things. You have to say next and then getting started. Our course is a little bit different. We do not have a initial knowledge check. We know that you had a prerequisite to get into this course, and so we are of the opinion that that prerequisite should get you to the right place of the course. We do have 2 review modules where you can kind of test things out. Again, you can just kind of go through this tutorial that kind of tells you how things work. But we want to get you started working in the course as quickly as possible. And this shows you how some of the tools work. I guess it's not usually when I'm in student or teacher mode, it lets me just bypass this, but I just want to see how far I get into this. Good. Okay, so I'm in the course. It's all recorded because I can only do this once under student mode. Then again, it tells you some things that you can look at. So do go through that. We all will start with 0 topics in our pie, and then we want to keep moving through. It'll tell you about your timeline, how to kind of record things. And now we're ready to start our path and know we're into a review objective part A. Before I click start on my path, since all I told you is I want you to just pair your courses, we've done that first step. So now I'm going to leave this as is. I'm going to come back to this video or to the slideshow. And the next step is, now that we're set up, what has happened is in the gradebook is I have both a Canvas gradebook and an Alex gradebook, and I can start working in Alex where, again, most of the content of the course is. So how do we work through modules in this course? Where we always start is here in Canvas, actually. We're trying out a new system. They did an update over this last summer, so we're kind of seeing how this works. As I go into each of the modules, so here, week 0, today, August 14th, is when we should have gotten access. And then till the first Friday, till the 18th, we have 2 modules that are assigned for us to work through. Notice each week you get to start early with this pre-session and maybe even get these done before the course even starts. So many students are able to do that. So now let me show you what each module contains. So if I click on Module A, there is a lecture video. I'll start this one briefly. We'll see this one. We'll stop it there, is 33 minutes. So this is about a 33-minute video, lecture. It will give you an overview. There's the slide deck here if you wanted to preview it, but I use that slide deck to work through some examples and such. Along with each lecture, there are lecture notes. Now, they may not be exactly the same. I might work an example in the lecture that are not in the notes. So maybe it's a good idea to take a look at the notes first. Maybe print these out. It depends on your learning style. But some of these you will see I will have worked as an example in the lecture, and they're out here. But again, they're also made separately. So you may see some things in here that are not in the lecture. You may see some things in the lecture that maybe didn't make it into the notes. That's some areas where you can get some practice on taking notes on those. But again, depending upon your style, you might want to come here first and print out the notes as a prelude, because much of the lecture does go through there. And just a shout out to Leslie Loy, who put much of these notes. I've adapted and added some things, but she really provided the backbone for these courses. Okay, so watch the video, look at the lecture notes. That's kind of where sort of the attending class part of this all is. And then this is our new thing. The next thing to do is actually to go into Alex and start working in the course. So we're going to learn the topics that are in Module A. And there's also some prior course videos. These are still here available. There's some examples, but they are not a full lecture. And so that's what the idea is, that the lecture video sort of replaces these. But if you want to take a look, you're welcome to do those too. But when I click on this is supposed to take me into Alex. And now it's not directly, notice there it went to like an assignment thing, and then so depending upon your internet access, it might take just a little bit. So just wait. And then we are now in Module A, right where we're supposed to be. This is kind of cool. And I'm kind of excited because this is something we've been wanting the folks at Alex to program into this, is for us to really integrate Canvas and the Alex system. So what you'll see is that you'll go into the first topic and there is an example. So there's an example question. There is an explanation of how to work through it. And then there's an answer. So you might want to take some notes on these, or, however you want. There's resources over here. There's a watch and learn. There are videos. There's the ebook, which actually takes you into the portion of the ebook. And there's some other things here. Take a look at what those do. But then when you click start, what you will do now is there's up to 5 times here. We'll see what that means. There's the toolbars. Close all this off. And again, they're just telling us how to do. And now we're asked to solve for W. And what we're going to do here is what the last explanation showed. We should factor this, see if we can solve it, and then we would enter our answer here. And we're actually doing our homework, or showing that we learned from that topic. We can then check. See, I think this will factor into See if I can do this. So I might come over here. This should factor into two numbers that multiply to give us 10. They're going to add together to give us 7, actually -7. So that would be, and be careful here because sometimes people, although they've helped us, we don't have to enter W equals. They've given us that because we might be tempted to enter X equals, right? Because a lot of us work that way. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 plus 5 is 7. So that should factor into 2 and 5. Since the 7 is negative, when we add them together, we need to get a negative. So a -2 and a -5 give us -7. This is now equal to 0. And so then I use the principle that when I'm multiplying two numbers and we end up with a product being 0, one of those numbers has to be 0 or potentially both of them. So I can then solve each of these, add 2 to both sides. So I get it, W equals 2. Add 5 to both sides, I'll get W equals 5. So I get 2 answers, and I input those as it says. If there's one, we're to separate them with commas. If there's more than one, right? So 2, 5. And then I'm going to check my answer. And then it says it's correct, and notice I've got 1 point added. I need to do another similar topic, and when I go to next, clear this out. I'm not going to keep working through these, but I would do the same thing here. I would check. If I get 2 or sometimes 3 right, it will move me and say, hey, you know this topic, move on to the next. And so I keep going. If I ever want to see things, because I just kind of jumped into here, I can come back here. I can go to the home screen of Alex. So I'm actually in Alex now, and I'm working around. I can see various resources. One of the things that's important is going to the reports section. Gradebook's also helpful, but in the reports, I can look at which current module I'm on. And notice I have not learned any percentage yet. I learned one question in a topic, but I haven't learned the topic. But it does show I have 13 topics that I need to learn, right? And I could go to B, and I haven't started B, but this what's due this week. So it kind of gives me an update here, and I'll start to see my Alex Pie populate as I learn topics. There's some assignments that are due here. Notice dates and such. And it shows me the activity. I haven't learned a topic, but I'm attempted one of the topics. So, and I've spent 5 minutes. So it allows me to see exactly how much time I'm spending in here. So that's all there under reports. I can go to the grade book. I can go, once I do learn topics, I can come back to review and review those topics. I can also go to learn. And this is a little strategy that may become in handy. There's this little drop down arrow, and notice there's review objective part A. If I wanted to jump ahead to review objective part B, I could do that. But notice on some of these, like this topic here, it has a lock. The reason it's locked is it's got prerequisites. I have to learn these ones before. So let me go to B, and I believe, well, actually, they're not locked. I was going to say, I thought they would be locked because I have to do A first, but I could jump here. So sometimes if you're stuck on some, you can see which ones are ready to learn. So this is a gold topic. I can learn any of these topics. I don't have to go in the order that they're presented to me unless they're locked. This one, there's something that has to be worked before this one will become unlocked. And that's just how it is. So yeah, a lot of times you'll find the later ones are locked until you learn the earlier ones. But you'll be able to kind of go around. Now, notice all of these in Objective 1 are locked. So there's nothing I can do here. And actually, it'll be that way until I learn all the topics in A and B. Once I learn A and B, then these will all be unlocked and I can move forward in that. So you can actually, if you start early in the course and you get your A and B done early, you can start working on the second week during the first week. And that's really a good way to build success, because then you're always a couple days ahead rather than ever falling behind. So that's the way the course is designed to work with each of the objectives. Actually, they're now called modules. So maybe I'll go back and I just find that there's things I need to update. So notice it's called Module A here. but it's called objective someplace else. So sometimes it's hard to change these things. But you can see each of the modules, as I go into them, there's a lecture, around 30 minutes or so, whatever was needed. There's module notes, click on those. And again, there's a lot of the examples that are in there are recorded here. So you'll see some of these are taken from the slides and they're helpful. You may need to augment those notes with your own, and then work in Alex, boom. That's going to take you right into the place where you need to work on module 1 and so forth each time. So this is sort of a daily thing to work. Everything is assigned daily. Follow the syllabus in the course. Go there. There's a schedule in here. Is the best way to kind of see how the course is intended to flow. Of course, there whatever due dates are in Alex kind of are the stronger things. So it kind of shows us the flow. We should get module A and B done this first week. But again, if we can get it done early and start working on the second week earlier, that's great. There are these sort of weekly reviews that are built in. After so many modules, there'll be a review. And what those are, I guess while I'm here, let's go ahead and highlight what those reviews do is, and I can get them in Alex. So here's another part that I forgot to mention or didn't mention yet is assignments. If I go to assignments, I can actually also navigate to whatever's available to me. So the algebra exam, I've got it locked until I do at least something in module 14 because that's the last one. So the algebra exam you can take earlier, but you can't take later than the due date without an extension. And again, that's the goal is to get you done. So because we've got trigonometry coming up here, but the review module, I can go into that. Yeah, I would suggest waiting till you work through modules 1 through 3, because what the reviews are is this is actually built on the same platform as the exams. So this is like an exam, question 1. So in this topic, this question actually could be on the exam. So state whether it represents a function or not. So again, since I haven't done this part, maybe I don't know what it is, but I would work through here. But these are topics that these 15 topics, the algebra exam will be 20 topics, 20 questions, and they are randomly chosen from these reviews. So this is a review of module 1 through 3. There's going to be one for 4 through 7, and I think there's 8 through 11, and then 12 through 14, something like that. But anyway, there'll be review questions taken from each of the modules that you work through, except for A and B. Those are kind of the prerequisite stuff. So modules 1 through 14 do have these review questions. You can jump around, and you'll see when you go to take the exam, it'll look just like this. So you'll see 20 questions. You can jump around, jump forward, jump back. You answer a question, and you can continue. Let me just see if I can find a real easy one to answer. Find all values of x that are not in the domain. So what I can see here, okay, domain is when the bottom becomes 0. So if there was a 3 here, 3 squared minus 9, that would give us division by 0. Also -3. -3 squared is positive 9. So this one has 2 answers. I'm just going to put it in here. You'll get at this in the modules. But I put in my answers, and much like an exam, it doesn't tell me whether I'm right or wrong. Notice there's no way to really check. I can continue, and what it does is it moves me to question 7. One way I can check, and this is sort of how I suggest working through these, is maybe work through the first 5 or 6, submit the assignment. It's going to grade it, and I'll see if I'm right or not. And then what this has is it's called a quick retake. So first I'll look at the report, and since I only answered one of the questions and I got it right, so that's a good thing. Good thing to know your teacher can do the exam questions, right? I did get it right. So when I go for a quick retake, I will be able to work through all the other questions, but not 6, because the system feels, hey, you know what 6 is, right? I can work all the way through these. And on the quick retake, notice now, when I start it, 6 has already been worked. I can't go do 6 again until I do all the other 15. Once I get all 15, I'll have a 100% score. That score is locked in. The highest score will be what's recorded in Canvas. And then I will be able to take the whole thing again and do it multiple times. They have double due dates. So there is a first due date that is the week that this shows up on the syllabus, right? So it has a due date of this Sunday because it's in that week 1. However, it also has an extended due date to be when the algebra exam is actually due. And the algebra exam also extends through Sunday. So all the reviews can continue to be worked on until the date the algebra exam is due. And I highly recommend doing that because if you work through these modules, these reviews multiple times, you are actually working through the types of questions and possibly the questions themselves that will be on the exam. Because again, each exam is randomly generated from these topics that are in the reviews. Very important to work through. If you get 100% on each of these reviews and you work through it multiple times and you get where you know all the topics in there, you'll probably experience a very similar thing with the algebra exam. You will have actually taken the exam multiple times before you actually go to take it. Okay. And then the same thing will happen with the trig portion of the class. So we've got it divided basically in those two halves, an algebra part of the class, a trigonometry part of the class. Work module by module, do the reviews, and you will experience that success. So, and actually I got a little slide for that. So let's come back here. Working through the modules, you kind of know how to do that. There's the reviews. Actually, I was going to do it this. So I've got 3 E's of Math 170. Start early each week, and again, start early in the course if you can. Engage consistently. So the course is designed with 18 to 22 hours per week needed for success. That you may need more depending upon where you are. If you haven't taken math in a while or such, you might be able to get by with less. But if you're only putting in 10 hours a week and you're not experiencing success, I would say and again, if you contact me, I would say, well, you really need to put in at least 8 more hours, maybe more, to get that level of success that you're going to want. That's what's really needed. But sometimes I'll get students that'll be spending 2 to 3 hours a week and they'll say, I'm just not getting it all done. Well, that's the intention, is that it should take you 22 hours, including everything, right? And then the 30 is experiencing learning success. Learning success in this course, hopefully getting a nice solid grade that you're anticipating and wanting, but additionally, success when you go into your calculus course for whichever field you're studying. So that's the whole idea behind pre-calculus, is we give you the tools that will help calculus be a course that also brings you great learning success. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for engaging with me. Please do get started. Hopefully you've already got your Canvas and Alex courses paired, so you're ready to go. You're ready to start into Module A as a review, get working in it, and then just module by module, build your success, learn the content, first algebra, then trigonometry, and you will have hopefully some enjoyment in what you're doing, and you will experience good success. Keep in touch with your instructor and keep moving forward. Thank you very much for your time.